Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
These were non-answer answers. What is the problem? Why was it caused? And when it's going to be solved?
Well, still more questions than answers for Maryland families whose college funds remain frozen tonight. As we've been reporting for months now, Maryland's 529 continues to work through a calculation error impacting thousands of accounts.
Now, the agency was supposed to give an update yesterday, but as Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor reports, it did little to ease concerns. Rebecca?
Yeah, guys, not only were families' concerns not put at ease, but the ones that I spoke with say that their anxiety has only worsened. They keep being told time and time again that answers are just around the corner. But now another deadline has come and gone, and still no clear solutions in sight.
It's very stressful.
I'm just plain angry.
William McMullen and Lori Delaney, just two of 30,000 families waiting on money they needed months ago.
I have absolutely no faith that the money's even still there at this point.
I have been trying to roll this money over since March and to pay for, 2 of his semesters of college, which is a lot of money.
Between the two, they currently have over $150,000 worth of interest locked up in Maryland 529 college funds. Their accounts among those frozen after the state agency announced a calculation error occurred during the fall of last year. Since then, Maryland 529 promised to have the problem resolved by June, then pushed their timeline back to September.
They tell you, oh, we're going to do things manually. We're really close. No.
The latest deadline was extended to Monday. Account holders receiving this email saying the agency has, quote, made much progress in the last few weeks and believe we are nearing a solution. It goes on to say, quote, we do not, however, want to sacrifice accuracy for a quick fix.
These people just keep changing the rules of the game.
Every time they say something, it's like, oh, another week, another month, another week, another month.
The continued lack of answers comes on the heels of a temporary fix that was rolled out last month. Account holders were asked to fill out this support form for urgent assistance. Today, we asked how many accounts have received that assistance, but Maryland 529 not giving a straight answer and refusing an interview. Meanwhile, despite filing weeks ago, the only assistance McMullen and Delaney have received are these confirmation emails.
I got a response back that we've received it. We'll be in touch with you. No response.
It shouldn't be rocket science to calculate interest.
And even though Maryland 529's deadlines keep moving, college tuition is still due. Delaney says the error has cost her thousands in loans she never should have been forced to take out in the first place.
Each month is a struggle to make the payments in the payment plan because I should have had the money up front to do it.
When am I going to get my money?
Now, I pressed Maryland 529 for a new deadline today. They did not answer me. Instead, they just repeated what they said in yesterday's update, saying that they are nearing a solution. Reporting live in Baltimore, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Good looking day. Today we've got a couple of sprinkles, if you wouldn't believe it, especially now north and east of Baltimore. But wow, 75 degrees. We will take it. In November, Toyota Ishida Harbor Skycam's looking good. You can see some of the shadows from the clouds, though, over the inner harbor nearby. You get out toward Curtis Bay and Chesapeake Bay. It starts clearing out a little bit out that way. Winds out of the northwest at 10 miles an hour. It is gorgeous. Humidity at 46%. Nice, good breeze coming in. Temperature 70 to 75 area-wide. Should be in the low and mid-60s this time of year. And how about it? About 8 to 15 degrees warmer than just 24 hours ago. Now, I mentioned those sprinkles. Perry Hall, you're seeing a couple. Also out into Betterton on the eastern shore and then trailing out into the central Delaware coastline. Maybe another shower here right around the I-70 marker near Green Valley as you're heading out toward Mount Airy Way. We've had a few that have been kind of in the area of central and northern Baltimore County, and Baltimore City's kind of skipped out on a lot of this, but that's pretty much it. And I think over the next 12 hours, we go to clearer skies. Let's zoom all the way out. You can actually see that latest weather maker that gave us the rain yesterday and some of the clouds and fog into this morning, spinning out of here and gone, and clearing skies coming in as that disturbance leaves. And those clearing skies are going to last for a while. All the rain down to our south, that disturbance stays south of us, and we remain in some really really nice weather. Now in the tropics, how about this? We got two systems we're watching. Lisa, there are now hurricane warnings in effect for portions of the Belize coastline. Actually, the entire Belize coastline could become a Category 1 as it makes landfall middle of the week. And also, this is newly formed. Didn't even have a chance of development on this one, but Martin forming in the past 12 hours or so. That could become a hurricane and then eventually an extratropical storm as it moves well out into the northern Atlantic. Temperatures into this evening settling slowly down into the 40s, mid to upper 40s by early tomorrow morning. Another winner for tomorrow with a good deal of sunshine, highs back well into the low and mid 70s, probably low 70s we'll say for tomorrow. Another nice day on Thursday, 68, 71 on Friday, 74, slim chance of a shower Saturday and Sunday. Definitely not rainouts. If anything comes, it's going to be very light, just a few extra clouds primarily. 74 Saturday, 75 Sunday. Remember, you're going to gain an hour of sleep early Sunday morning. And of course, when you go to sleep Saturday night, turn those clocks back 1 hour. Straight shower Monday and next week, 74 and still looking good by next Tuesday.
Well, one of Baltimore's biggest rival football games ends with both teams losing. How bad sportsmanship is going to cost the players. But first, squeegee incidents are becoming all too common in Baltimore. Why a law enforcement expert says it's going to take major changes for things to improve. Well, there has been a pattern of squeegee kids getting into violent interactions with drivers this year. Now one couple says Baltimore officers ignored their pleas for help after being robbed. Megan Gillen speaks with a law enforcement expert about how this can happen.
A Baltimore couple says a squeegee kid stole their wallet over the weekend as they were stopped on East Fayette and President Streets. The couple says police were stationed right at that intersection but did not take a police report at the scene. Instead, told them to call a phone number. Law enforcement expert Mari Richards weighing in on the incident.
What I've seen in this story is an absolute disgrace. I've been a policeman 29 years, and to see this, hear it, and read it makes me sick. But this is what happens when you have a mayor who puts criminals before law-abiding citizens, assigns police as chaperones, and you have a commissioner who is telling their officers to ignore crime. And what these squeegee thugs are doing, they commit a crime every time they step in the street.
Do you think the commissioner is saying ignore crime, or is he just saying that they're going to go about the squeegee kids differently?
Well, I mean, it looks to me like they're ignoring it. I mean, they're sitting there watching these thugs go in the street every day, 100 times. Every time they do that, that's a crime. And those laws are not being enforced.
Mayor Brandon Scott is expected to unveil a plan to address the issue of squeegee kids this week. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
Baltimore County asking voters for permission to spend hundreds of millions of dollars, where that money is going and why it has to be approved at the ballot box. Plus, a candid conversation with current Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski and what he has to say about crime, police work, and violence in schools.
Wasn't real, but it's coming up.
The biggest rivalry high school football game in Baltimore City ends with both teams disqualified for the state playoffs. In a letter to parents, city leaders say a fight involving players, students, and other community members broke out after the game in which City beat Poly 24-16. They say this follows a similar issue between two other city schools, Edmondson and Patterson. City leaders also say this is not the first time fights have broken out between City and Poly, and they hope this action will prevent future bad sportsmanship. Well, overnight, 2 men were shot in the city. Both victims are expected to recover. So far, 609 people have been shot in the city and survived. 281 people have been killed this year in the city, which matches last year's pace.
Ganesha Spence, the security guard accused of shooting someone at the Royal Farms in South Baltimore, has been charged with attempted murder. It happened around 3:30 Sunday morning at the Royal Farms on Washington Boulevard at the corner of South Monroe Street. That's where officers found a 26-year-old with a gunshot wound to the head. As of yesterday, first responders said the victim was in grave condition. Anyone with information is asked to call police. A federal judge has delayed the trial of a Johns Hopkins doctor and her spouse who are accused of trying to leak medical records to aid the Russian war effort in Ukraine. Dr. Anna Gabrilian and her spouse, Dr. Jamie Lee Henry, are charged with conspiracy and the disclosure of individually identifiable health information. Judge Stephanie Gallagher granted the government's request for more time in an order filed Monday in effort to complete discovery and potentially work without a plea deal. A trial is now likely to occur early next year.
With 1 week until Election Day, Fox 45 News is taking you beyond the podium. During this election cycle, some Maryland cities and counties are asking voters to approve big money for long-term projects. Fox 45's Amy Simpson digging into some of these local ballot questions to find out what the potential impact is for taxpayers. Amy?
Yeah, Mary, in both the city and the county, voters are being asked for permission to take on hundreds of millions of dollars in new debt. This is a way for voters and taxpayers really to be a part of the checks and balances in their local government. On the ballot this year, 3 of Maryland's largest jurisdictions are asking voters to consider the borrowing of big bucks. Baltimore City seeking approval for $160 million worth of projects. In Baltimore County, $338 million. And in Prince George's County, $380 million for projects and local improvements.
It's actually very common for governments to use municipal bonds to pay for larger construction projects.
These questions are not about raising property or income taxes for residents. Instead, it's local governments asking for permission from voters to take on debt by issuing bonds. David Williams, president of the Taxpayers Protection Alliance, says this happens all the time, but those bonds will need to be paid back.
This is money that is going to be owed to these investors, and there's going to be an interest rate involved.
Taking a closer look at questions C through K for voters in Baltimore County. Among the $338 million being asked to authorize borrowing for, $18.5 million towards community colleges, $27 million for the county's police, fire, library, and senior center buildings, $57.3 million towards county streets, highways, bridges, and drainage systems, even $200 million for acquiring, constructing, renovating, and maintaining Baltimore County public schools.
Municipalities, cities, localities need to be very careful about what they spend this money on.
Baltimore County says it has the highest possible credit rating on the market, allowing this local government to borrow money at the lowest possible interest rate. Still, this taxpayer advocate says anytime money is being borrowed, there's always risk.
It's important to get the best interest rate that you can and to have the best credit rating. But there is still inherent risk with any sort of municipal bond because you are borrowing this money and you are paying it back with interest. So every city, state, and locality needs to look at these very carefully. And really every voter, when they look at these ballot initiatives, need to understand the risks that are inherent with the municipal bonds.
So whether you're voting by mail, voting early, or voting next Tuesday, voters get to decide yay or nay on each of these projects if you're in the city or in the county. And if they don't pass for some reason, it's not that new schools and bridges and roads won't be built. It's just local governments will have to find another way to pay for it. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Amy. In 7 days, voters will head to the polls for Election Day. Fox 45 News is committed to taking you beyond the podium with candidates vying for your vote. Mackenzie Frost sat down with Democrat Johnny Olszewski, who's seeking re-election as Baltimore County Executive.
County Executive Johnny L., thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
What are some of the goals that you're looking for to accomplish if elected?
We've worked really hard these past 4 years to, for example, put forward both record-shattering funding for school construction, but also to obtain a lot of money from the state to help really accomplish those aims.
We've seen a lot of video surfacing of violence happening in schools. How do you plan to address that, and what do you think is the root cause?
We're providing the supports, again, both the upstream and the safety interventions that we can from a county perspective, but that the school system is, holding children and families accountable for violent behavior.
What more could they be doing, the school board?
Well, look, as a teacher, the thing I can tell you is that children that were persistently violent or disruptive not only affected their own ability to learn, and those children are entitled to a chance to learn, but in doing so, they were also disrupting the opportunity for other children in the schoolhouse to have an education.
Especially in the county, there's been a lot of conversation about some frustration within the police department. And I know you went and talked to some folks in the police department. What are you hearing from members, rank and file members, about what's going on?
Well, I'll start by saying, anyone who's affected by crime we care about, and one person who's impacted is one too many. Mm-hmm. There are, I think, both some short-term and long-term things that we can be addressing. Not just salary and pay, but also issues of equipment and our police precincts, bringing those up to speed.
The buildings themselves?
The buildings themselves. There are issues of carryover leave.
Your opponent talks about how, if elected, he would get rid of the chief, Melissa Hyatt. Mm-hmm. That would be one of his first actions. Do you think that's a good idea, and do you still have faith in her abilities? The
first thing I'd say is it's presumptuous for me or anyone running to make pronouncements. If I'm fortunate enough to have the opportunity to keep serving, every agency, every department head will go through a thorough review, and it will not only review what they've done to date, but also whether or not they're the right leader to move that agency into the future.
You're still the county executive right now, though. Do you have faith in her at this moment?
Like I said, we are continuing every day to work hand in glove to make sure that we are doing whatever we can to support the men and women of the department, to keep our neighborhood safe, and to make sure that we're moving forward on some key critical initiatives. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing together.
Would you tell them right now that everyone should be expecting to have their job performance looked at and evaluated, and perhaps changes would be made?
Yeah, our agency heads know that just like I have to stand for evaluation before the voters, mm-hmm. They too will be being evaluated in terms of whether or not they're the right leader to move the county ahead.
Election day's coming up. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And to see McKinsey's full 30-minute interview with County Executive Johnny Olszewski, you can scan the QR code on your screen to take you right to our voter guide, or head to foxbaltimore.com/vote2022. Once there, you can find our interview with his challenger, Republican Pat McDonough.
2 shootings overnight in Baltimore County, sending both victims to the hospital. The first happened in Randallstown around 10:15 on Carriage Hill Circle, just off Liberty Road. That man is in critical condition. Someone shot another man just before 3 a.m. at the corner of Frederick Road and Poplar Avenue in Catonsville. Law enforcement have not released the condition of that victim. Anybody with information is asked to call the Baltimore County Police Department.
An Anne Arundel County woman is accused of exposing herself and cursing at children while handing out candy last night. Officers say they arrested 45-year-old Wendy Kazarek on 2nd Avenue, just off Hillside Avenue in Edgewater. Now, she faces charges of indecent exposure and disorderly conduct. The suspect was released from jail this morning without bail.
Making headlines now, the second woman accusing Georgia Republican Senate hopeful Herschel Walker of pressuring her to get an abortion speaks on camera for the first time. The woman, called Jane Doe on ABC News, says she got pregnant after a years-long affair with Walker in the 90s. She says she did not want to go through with the procedure, but alleges Walker pressured her, gave her cash, and waited in the car while she did the procedure. The accuser says she doesn't believe he's fit to be a U.S. Senator.
He was very clear that he did not want me to have the child. And he said that because of his wife's family and powerful people around him, that I would not be safe and that the child would not be safe.
Walker denies this allegation and a similar one from another unnamed accuser. Both women are represented by attorney Gloria Allred.
South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham will likely have to testify in Georgia in an investigation into possible interference in the 2020 election in that state by then President Donald Trump and his allies. The Supreme Court lifted a temporary hold on that testimony today. In an unsigned order, the justices said Graham could still raise objections to specific questions.
Well, coming up, a new reason doctors say pregnant women should limit caffeine.
Threats of harassment, intimidation, and violence. I'll look at concerns ahead of the elections and what's being done to keep you safe.
Well, next week, the election will take place, and the federal government is warning of a, quote, complex threat environment. While they say there's been no information about credible threats, election leaders and officers nationwide are on alert. Dee Dee Gatton has a closer look at the concerns and what's being done to keep people safe.
From coast to coast, election workers and voters are preparing for threats of violence and intimidation. Now, more than ever, experts say vigilance is needed. As some head to the polls, scenes like this are imprinted in memory.
You had the January 6th event. Now we're concerned that it may happen again.
Cybersecurity expert Dr. Scott White believes the attack on the U.S. Capitol was an act of domestic terrorism. He says that movement is still active throughout the U.S.
And I think one of the things that we deal with today is there's so much rhetoric, there's so much whether it be anti-government or anti-political party or even anti-individual in the case of Chair Pelosi, that individual predominantly on the fringe, and many of them with mental health issues, may act out violently.
Recently, a top U.S. cybersecurity official warned of an environment involving everything from cyber threats to threats of harassment, intimidation, and violence. She said they're putting out warnings to make sure state and local election staff have what they need to protect their voting systems. Security is top of mind at the local level, according to Mecklenburg County Election Director Michael Dickerson.
We always talk about your safety and security. We've encouraged that this year a little bit more so that people realize we're here to protect and we're here to keep you safe.
Recently, people who were armed and in tactical gear were seen outside a ballot drop box in Arizona. In Texas, there have been reports of intimidation of election workers. And in Wisconsin, reports of social media threats.
This is very disconcerting, and law enforcement has to move on it very quickly.
In some locations, we're told there will be plainclothes officers if anyone feels uncomfortable. Dr. White underscores the need for measures like this because as we hear of intimidation, he says people could become fearful and not vote. Reporting for the National Desk, I'm Dee Dee Gatton.
Yeah, take it in. Look at that sunshine right now on the Toyota Ishida Harbor Skycam. Ample sun, 75. Winds out of the northwest at 10 miles an hour. Nice gusty breeze coming in. Humidity is at 46%. Dew point at 53, which is pretty dry, and it's on the way down. So a crisp overnight on the way after a gorgeous day. Up to 75 in Baltimore, 74 down Annapolis way. After only low and mid 60s yesterday with some of the showers that we had. 68 degrees at Bel Air. And 72 at Frederick. A little bit of a cloudy start, but then the sunshine breaking out and bringing those temperatures anywhere between about 10 and 15 degrees above where they were just 24 hours ago. Now, out Columbia Way, there's one little lone sprinkle here. We can go ahead and put on our little box zoom, and we can zoom in there, show you what's going on. Just south of 70, right around Dayton. It's not a huge deal, but again, there could be a light shower there. And then there's also a couple sprinkles out on the eastern shore. You can see here east of Chestertown as you work your way into the Delaware line. A couple light sprinkles as well. And that's what our latest weather maker gave us some rain yesterday into the overnight. Some dreary conditions to start, but now that's pushing east. Clearing skies rolling in. Fair weather high pressure is now our weather maker. So that means milder weather. And it also means some sunshine. Now, down in the tropics, they're getting a little rowdy again. Hard to believe now we're in November, the final month of hurricane season, and there's another hurricane that could be on the way. Belize is under a hurricane warning with maybe a Category 1 over the next several days. And then there's also Martin, which is a newly formed tropical storm in the central and northern Atlantic. That looks like it's probably going to be shooting its way all the way up into the North Atlantic and eventually becoming extratropical. So the forecast overnight tonight, skies going clear after that early sprinkled chance. I think we'll drop down into the 40s by early tomorrow morning, maybe near 50 here in Baltimore. And by tomorrow afternoon, it could be a degree or two cooler with highs generally in the low 70s. But still, overall, a really nice day for an outdoor lunch with ample sun sticking around. Another nice day Thursday. Again, maybe a little bit cooler with a high 65 to 70. Back to 71 on Friday. Some clouds increase for Saturday. It's warmer with a high in the mid-70s. Slim chance of a shower there. Some spot showers as well on Sunday, but it's not a big chance. And oh, by the way, at 2 a.m., the clocks go back 1 hour and check those smoke detector batteries if you still do have batteries in those smoke detectors. And then on Monday, 74 straight shower, 70 and sun back for next Tuesday.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, controversy surrounding a piece of evidence key to the release of Adnan Syed. Why the meaning of a note from 20 years ago is being called into question.
New study just released could give us the first RSV vaccine ever. I'm Liz Bonus. What a difference it could make for the very young and the very old. We explain just ahead.
A new study shows drinking coffee during pregnancy could lead to having a shorter child. Researchers found babies born to women who consumed about 50 milligrams of caffeine a day were about 0.8 inches smaller compared to peers at the age of 8. Now, current U.S. guidelines recommend pregnant women limit their caffeine intake to 200 milligrams a day. For context, the average cup of coffee has about 100 milligrams of caffeine in it. Well, the first vaccine against RSV is now one step closer to saving lives. Pfizer announced today that it's submitting data to the FDA from the largest vaccine trial for this respiratory illness given to women during pregnancy. Medical reporter Liz Bonus has been following the research and shares more on how this could be a game changer.
Hey there, everybody. The data released today shows remarkable results in those who participated in this RSV vaccine trial while pregnant.
Knowing that I'm going to have a very, very small infant in the middle of RSV season, I wanted to do everything that I could to try to protect them.
Beth was one of those moms. She was one of more than 7,000 women who chose to participate in this trial worldwide. Her site, Ohio's Cincinnati Children's Hospital, which provided this video.
I received either the vaccine or the placebo as part of the study.
In those who did get the actual RSV vaccine given in late-stage pregnancy in this trial, in the first 3 months of a baby's life, the protection against this potentially deadly virus was remarkable.
We saw 81.8% vaccine efficacy against RSV.
At 6 months, it was more than 70% protective, according to a release by Pfizer today. Any concerns about miscarriages or stillbirths or other side effects?
It has been very safe, no increased risk of any sort of adverse events like you mentioned.
Now, in addition to these pregnancy and infant RSV trials, older adult vaccine RSV trials are also underway. Here at this Meridian Clinical Research site, they have one study enrolling people ages 80 and older.
Pretty exciting to be working in the vaccine space.
Since there's no treatment once this respiratory illness takes over the body,
RSV has been one of the most difficult viruses for us to manage.
A shot at prevention could be one of the greatest game changers for a highly contagious respiratory illness that right now is the cause of 1 in every 5 hospitalizations nationwide. It is possible an RSV vaccine could be fast-tracked based on these promising results, but our researchers say that still means we will not see this shot for this season of illness. All the more reason to get the flu and COVID-19 vaccines. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonus. Now back to you.
Maryland's health insurance marketplace is now open, meaning residents can sign up for health plans for next year. Open enrollment runs now through January 15th. Coverage begins January 1st if you sign up before the new year, and February 1st if you sign up in January. Health leaders say many people are eligible for free and low-cost plans, and savings from the Inflation Reduction Act will continue into 2023. For more information, go to marylandhealthconnection.gov. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock as we wait for a plan, reports of crime involving Squeegee kids continues. Fox 45 News presses city leaders on whether they're on the same page in finding an answer. An unpaid bill almost led to another water crisis in Baltimore. The new details we're learning from an inspector general's report. The city of Baltimore is trying to barely avoiding another water crisis. The issues highlighted in a new Inspector General report.
We're still waiting on the city's plan to deal with squeegee kids, pressing the mayor on whether he and the likely next city state's attorney agree on how to handle the issue.
A 20-year-old note key to Adnan Syed being freed is now being called into question. The latest on the controversy surrounding the case.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
A dispute over a bill almost led Baltimore to face an emergency health crisis. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Now, according to a new report from the Office of the Inspector General of Baltimore, the city's water was nearly contaminated with lead.
Maxine Stryker joins us live to explain all of this to us. Maxine?
Well, Mary, this report found that the Department of Finance failed to pay a DPW vendor who supplies chemicals that are crucial in purifying our drinking water, and it nearly was a public health emergency. Now, the Inspector General found the city had numerous past due invoices to this vendor who supplies the chemical required in the water purification process. The report says that the vendor informed the city in June that they were raising their prices, but a new contract was never submitted by the city for renewal. DPW ultimately, they secured an emergency procurement to pay the vendor, but the OIG found that chemical deliveries were disrupted for 2 weeks during this time, causing supplies at Montebello plants to become critically low there in the water. DPW's water system treatment manager said if the city did not pay the bill, it could have been an emergency health crisis like they saw in Flint, Michigan, and the city's tap water simply would not have been drinkable. Now, we talked with David Williams with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance, who says all of this is just shocking.
This is something that took months to figure out, that there was a discrepancy between the vendor and the city, and it put people's lives at risk. We're talking about clean water, one of the things that the city really has to provide people, and this massive miscommunication really put lives at risk.
And Maxine, how is DPW responding to this report?
Well, Mary, the Department of Public Works and Finance, they responded saying in part they are making changes as a result of this report. They're reviewing the process for vendor contracts when they need to be renewed, and they're also working on strengthening their communications between the different agencies involved in this process. But you'll remember it was Labor Day weekend when DPW found themselves in another water crisis when E. coli contaminated water in parts of West Baltimore, making the water undrinkable there for several days, and DPW has been heavily criticized for how they handled that crisis as well. Reporting live in Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. Well, coming up at 5:30, Inspector General Isabel Mercedes Cumming is joining us here in the studio to talk about this report.
This is just the latest controversy to hit the Department of Public Works, despite the department with a more than $600 million budget. DPW's director, Jason Mitchell, is one of the highest paid people in Baltimore city government, earning $245,000 a year. Now, despite those taxpayer dollars, the department has had several problems, including reports from state investigators who say they've received reports of staff members sleeping and watching TV on the job.
And last month, Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost broke an exclusive investigation into the September E. coli contamination in West Baltimore. Emails we obtained show apparent communication breakdowns within DPW. Nearly 24 hours went by before the DPW issued a boil water advisory after receiving the go-ahead from the state. We questioned DPW Director Jason Mitchell about that delay.
We sent you an email yesterday. We didn't get a response. Do you know why the department didn't put out the boil water advisory Sunday as directed by MDE?
So we put out many different things on Sunday. Number one, our health department gave out information related to nursing homes or homes in the area. We issued a statement via social media Monday morning at 7:43 a.m. We also had boots on the ground.
But we know that MDE said that the tweet in the next door wasn't sufficient, and they told you multiple times to issue that BWA Sunday. Why didn't that happen?
We worked closely hand in hand with MDE throughout the entire process.
Well, Fox 45 News is still waiting for more documents related to that case as the investigation continues. In March of this year, state environmental officials came in and took control of the city-owned Back River wastewater treatment plant in Dundalk. Last month, the City Board of Estimates decided state officials will stay there through the end of the year. Several residents over the past few years have reached out to Fox 45 after receiving water bills in the thousands. Our reporting has helped resolve some of those big money mistakes. In August, Councilman Yitzi Schleifer proposed fining the department's director $1,000 a day until it resumes weekly recycling pickup. So far, that hasn't happened.
That brings us to our question of the day. Is it time for a change in leadership at the Department of Public Works? So far, 100% of those who voted say yes. We want to know what you think. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to make your voice heard.
And as we wait for a plan from the city's Squeegee Collaborative, another crime has been reported involving Squeegee kids. On Saturday, just off Interstate 83, a driver says he had his wallet taken by a Squeegee kid, only steps from a police officer. The couple say they lost about $300. The victim was a physician coming in from Baltimore County to the city for dinner. Right now, the mayor continues to stand by his statements that the current laws banning this activity won't be enforced.
This latest incident is one of dozens of stories Fox 45 has heard from viewers about interactions with Squeegee kids. We've seen videos of Squeegee kids hitting drivers and ripping off windshield wipers. And we've heard stories from victims of Cash App scams involving Squeegee kids. Earlier this year, a Fox 45 News employee became one of those victims. He says Squeegee kids used his phone to send themselves hundreds of dollars.
And they offered to clean my window, and I waved them off.
I rolled out my window saying, "No, thank you, have no cash."
I said, I don't want my windows done. I'm all right.
I said, "No, thank you." And he just kept doing it.
This week, Mayor Brandon Scott is expected to reveal the long-awaited recommendations from the Squeegee Collaborative. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live after questioning the mayor about drivers' recent negative encounters with Squeegee kids. Mackenzie?
Yeah, okay, so the mayor says that the city is investigating the latest incident, the one that you just talked about, where that physician says that he was coming from the county into the city for dinner. He says it happened right at the corner of Fayette and President in the shadows of Baltimore Police Headquarters. He also says it happened right in front of a police officer, someone he went over and talked to about the incident, although this person we talked to said that a detective has yet to give him a call. Now, earlier today, we questioned the mayor because we continue to see this apparent discrepancy in interpretation of the law, right? The mayor says that the laws in the books banning this activity cannot be enforced in a constitutional way, but we also have heard from Ivan Bates, the city's next presumptive top prosecutor, who says otherwise.
We're on it. We're investigating to make sure what happened, to make sure our police department did what they were supposed to do. When we get the details on that, I will definitely get back to you.
But your office also says that when we see the recommendations, it'll focus on the constitutionality of enforcement around these laws. Ivan Bates says that he disagrees with your law enforcement.
No, he doesn't. I spoke with Ivan Bates directly. What you say, Mackenzie, again, Ivan Bates and I have residents of Baltimore. Do not listen to Fox 45. There is no difference between Ivan Bates and I and how we're going to approach the squeegee. Thank you. Anybody else?
Where's the disconnect? You can see the mayor did not answer that last question when I asked him where this disconnect appears to be between himself and Ivan Bates. But Mary and Kyle, let's just rewind for a second. Here's exactly what Ivan Bates told me about the situation just last month. Does that mean you disagree with the mayor's law department's interpretation of the law, that what they're doing is protected free speech because they say that that's panhandling?
I understand, however, on the law, I disagree. To me, there's a difference of panhandling, holding a sign very quietly in an area, not going in and out of traffic. Right. Going in and out of traffic is an action. Therefore, I believe that action is illegal.
Now, the mayor's office says that we'll have to wait and see what those recommendations will be from the Squeegee Collaborative, but they say whatever they will be, the city should not expect to see an immediate switch or a change from what's happening right now. Kai?
And Mackenzie, you also have some new reporting about the Adnan Syed case and the handwritten note that's central to prosecutors' argument about possible other suspects. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, okay, so this was first reported by the Baltimore Banner, but we did obtain a copy of this note ourselves. If we put it up on the screen, our viewers at home can see. We did redact some of the information because other people haven't been charged in connection with this case. But this handwritten note was from former prosecutor Kevin Urich, and he writes, taking notes during his investigation. And in this specific portion where he talks about, he says that specific area was quoted in the prosecutor's filing along with the defense filing about why Syed should have his conviction overturned. But in an annotation or a transcript of that handwritten note, Urich also explains that the he's referring to is Adnan Syed, and that aspect of it was not involved in the latest court filings. Now, we did speak with Kurt Nachman. He is a former city prosecutor, now defense attorney. He's not involved in this case, but he does say that this latest development raises some serious questions about what happened in Marilyn Mosby's office.
To me, the most shocking thing is that no one ever bothered to call the original prosecutor on the case and ask him what his notes meant. These are an attorney's notes. These are an attorney's work product. So it may have been random scribblings. It may have been notes of an interview session. It may have been any one of a million things. But if you don't, number one, that's not discoverable. Attorney work product is just simply not discoverable except in extremely limited circumstances, number one. Number two, if you're not calling the original prosecutor and asking him some of these tough questions, you're not really doing your job as a prosecutor. You might as well just be a defense attorney.
Now, this afternoon, Marilyn Mosby herself has been quick to refute some of these claims. Her statement is pretty lengthy, but let me read you a portion of it. She says that she calls the situation unfortunate, saying, quote, "It makes absolutely no sense to believe that Kevin Urich, who has now recreated an alleged transcript of an exculpatory call, is now attributing the threats to Adnan Syed. Urich's revisionist history is not only convenient, but self-serving." Now, I also asked Marilyn Mosby's office why Urich himself was not questioned during this revisit investigation of this case itself, but so far, I haven't gotten an answer. We're live in Baltimore. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
All right, Mackenzie, thank you. Arguably the biggest rivalry in high school football in Baltimore ends with both teams disqualified for the state playoffs. In a letter to parents, city leaders say a fight involving players, students, and other community members broke out after City beat Poly. Now, officials say this is not the first time fights have broken out between City and Poly, and they hope this action will stop fights in the future.
With 1 week until Election Day, Fox 45 News is taking you beyond the podium. And after casting votes for governor or county executive, some Maryland's largest jurisdictions will be asking voters for permission to borrow some big money.
That's right. Fox 45's Amy Simpson is live right now with more on what voters need to know. Amy?
Yeah, this is good info for both city and Baltimore County voters being asked to approve big chunks of money for long-term capital projects. These ballot questions, local ballot questions, will come after those questions about who to vote for governor, county executive, the local races, and even the statewide ballot initiatives. You'll find them towards the end of your ballot. In Baltimore City, voters are being asked to approve $160 million worth of projects and local improvements. And in Baltimore County, local ballot questions C through K, that's 9 different initiatives, ask voters to approve a total of $338 million for capital projects. Those projects range from improvements to schools and community colleges to improving roads, bridges, and public safety buildings. And the ballot questions are not about raising property or income taxes for residents. Instead, it's local government's way of asking for permission from voters to take on new debt by issuing bonds.
And Amy, what do experts recommend voters consider when they see these types of questions on their ballot?
Yeah, so like I said, these will be towards the end of your ballot. You got a lot of questions to consider, but the cool thing is this is a way for voters to participate in the checks and balances of local government. They get to say a yay or nay on these. But I did speak to a taxpayer advocate today who told me anytime bonds are issued, there is just inherent risk. Take a listen.
It's important to get the best interest rate that you can and have the best credit rating. but there is still inherent risk with any sort of municipal bond because you are borrowing this money and you are paying it back with interest. So every city, state, and locality needs to look at these very carefully. And really every voter, when they look at these ballot initiatives, need to understand the risks that are inherent with the municipal bonds.
So whether you're voting by mail, you're voting early, or you're voting in person next Tuesday, it's the voters, it's you who get to decide yay or nay on these types of spending and borrowing ballot initiatives. And if they, for some reason, do not pass, it's not that new bridges and schools will not be built across Maryland. It's just that local governments will need to find another way to pay for it. Mary, Kai.
Amy, thank you so much. Be sure to check out the Fox 45 voter guide for all of our reporting on the upcoming general election, plus important dates to mark on your calendar. Just scan the QR code to take you straight there or head to foxbaltimore.com/vote2022.
A ballot proposal could put the city of Baltimore back in charge of the police department. The debate over question H.
What is the role of the federal government in combating misinformation? I'm Christine Frizzau in Washington, where that question is front and center once again.
And looking good for a little grilling tonight. Yes, grilling in November. We'll take it. Temperature's going to be in the low and mid 70s, dropping into the 60s as we head into the evening hours. I'm going to let you know what you're going to wake up to tomorrow morning and when the risk of rain moves back into the forecast. My Weather Authority forecast.
Making headlines tonight, questions are being raised about the role of the federal government in fighting disinformation. Christine Frizzau has the concerns.
New Twitter owner Elon Musk has vowed a platform with less content moderation and more free speech, with critics arguing it's already devolved to a platform where hate speech and conspiracy theories roam wild. But The Intercept is now reporting on what it calls truth cops, detailing leaked meeting notes from the federal government that show how, quote, tech platforms would be called upon to process reports and provide timely responses, to include the removal of reported misinformation from the platform where possible. A sign some say the Department of Homeland Security's mission to combat foreign disinformation has crept and come home.
Even if some false speech about these issues reduces trust in government and can therefore be seen to give aid and comfort to terrorists, quashing domestic information about these issues violates Americans' First Amendment rights.
There is also reporting on a special government reporting system for Facebook employees to use, a system lawmakers have criticized, along with the Biden administration's Disinformation Governance Board, which dissolved amid criticisms it was akin to a Big Brother or a Ministry of Truth.
How do you propose that you're going to have an office of disinformation governance if you see the problem in even determining what is disinformation?
But supporters of such systems say the federal government should be involved to protect U.S. national security, since many of the threats begin online but can evolve into violence that actually threatens people's lives. They cite last year's attack on the U.S. Capitol and the attack on Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband and threats against people and democracy.
We're seeing increases in voter intimidation efforts across the country. We've had threats to election officials and election officers consistently since the election in 2020.
The role of the U.S. government in countering those threats, both publicly and privately, prompting new questions in Washington. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
Look at that fall color on the Mile 1 Towson Cam on this November 1st. Some nice peak color here. 73, 75 the high temperature today. Winds out of the northwest at about 11. Humidity coming down to 48% with a dew point in the low 50s. That is dry, good feeling air. 73 here in Baltimore now. 70 at Cockeysville, 70 at Bel Air, 72 as you head down Annapolis Way. Temperatures all running about 10 to 15 degrees above where they were just 24 hours ago. And guess what? This temperature pattern, although the real warmth is going to be over the upper Midwest, this is going to continue with temperatures just at or above average, at least through Wednesday. And then we're really going to get into some of that warmth that's out to our west, potentially towards the weekend. HT radar looking good. Couple showers that are up Pennsylvania way. Our latest weather maker gave us the rain yesterday, the drizzle this morning, some of the fog in the clouds that kind of got you a little scared there that we were going to see sunshine come back. Well, now that has moved off to the east. And the showers are saying goodbye. The sunshine has come back. Did have a couple of sprinkles way up there north and east of Baltimore, but even those have diminished as the drier air is moving in. So now down in the tropics, two things that we're watching, but they're not going to have impact on us. Lisa is actually providing for hurricane warnings with a Category 1 hurricane expected the next couple of days in Belize. And then also Martin is a tropical storm, could become a hurricane briefly before becoming extratropical the next several days over the extreme northern Atlantic. Now, around here, gorgeous, although a little chilly into the overnight hours, mainly clear skies. Nice looking day tomorrow as we head up to about 70 to 75, maybe a couple degrees cooler than today. So light jackets out tonight, becomes clear, 49, 71, mostly sunny. Good for walking the dog tomorrow. And hey, you know what? Stay outside here. Thursday, Friday, good looking day, 76 on Saturday. Of course, you fall back an hour into early Sunday, a high 76 there. Just slim shower chances and stays mild into early next week.
And thank you. Decisions at the ballot box will shape your child's education. A closer look at some of the candidates vying for school board positions. A new report from the Office of the Inspector General says Baltimore was nearly thrown into an emergency health crisis because of an unpaid bill.
Yeah, that report compared the potential severity of the situation to the water crisis in Flint, Michigan, which left residents there with toxic drinking water for years.
That's right. Baltimore Inspector General Isabel Mercedes Cummings joins us in the studio to talk about this explosive report. Thank you for being here. If you can, explain the threat and why the bill for these critical chemicals wasn't paid on time. And there's no checks and balances, it seems.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I think it's important to note that the comment about the Flint, Michigan actually came from DPW. So it was actually a comment made from them because, of course, we don't have the ability to understand sometimes how this impacts, but this is their job. So that comment wasn't from my report. It was actually from someone over there. So what happened was we had a vendor who actually submitted that he was going to renew his contract, as well as that his price was going up. So in the end, because that particular email was never read, the city ended up withholding payments for almost $70,000, and the vendor, rightfully so because he wasn't getting paid, started withholding the chemical, and as a result, the situation became the way it became. And finally, an emergency procurement did happen, and the situation was solved.
Ms. Cumming, a couple of things. First of all, you would think there would be some kind of like public mandate, even with funds being held, that this vendor would be obligated by law to still make sure this chemical is available for safe drinking water. That aside, is there someone specific to blame here? And if you believe so, what changes need to be made?
It was a lot of miscommunication. It was a lot of, our office has done several cases now in the area of procurement. And that's an area that we really have to focus on. In this particular case, it was the workers at DPW that actually brought this to the attention and helped save this situation from happening. So, sometimes people like to say there's silos in Baltimore, and there's silos between departments, and that is what we have to work on to try to make it. That's why it was encouraging that the response was actually done by both DPW and the Department of Finance, a collaborative response, acknowledging that we all have to work more to make sure that something like this, this serious, won't happen going forward.
Yeah, there should be a red flag up that this vendor always needs to be paid, and then you can negotiate price at a different time.
Every vendor should be paid, Mary. I mean, this shouldn't even be an issue. We have to be on top of our vendors because they're making the product and we owe them the money. So, I mean, that's where we have to work harder and do better.
All right. Inspector General Cummings, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us about this really critical and important issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
These were non-answer answers. What is the problem? Why was it caused? And when it's going to be solved?
Still more questions than answers for Maryland families whose college funds are frozen. As we've been reporting for some months now, Maryland 529 continues to work through an error impacting thousands of account holders.
The agency was supposed to give a highly anticipated update yesterday, but as Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor reports, that update did little to ease concerns. She joins us live now with the very latest. Rebecca?
Yeah, Mary, not only were families' concerns not put at ease, the ones that I spoke with say their anxiety has only worsened. They keep being told time and time again that answers are just around the corner. But now yet another deadline has come and gone with no clear solutions in sight. Yesterday's update said the agency is making progress, but offered no timeline for when account holders would actually regain access to their funds. This after account holders were initially promised a solution back in June and then again in September.
I have absolutely no faith that the money's even still there at this point because they're not being upfront about what's going on. These people just keep changing the rules of the game. Angry.
Now, when I pressed Now, when I pressed Maryland 529 for answers on when a new deadline would be coming up today, they told me, well, quite frankly, they didn't really answer the question at all, simply saying that they were nearing a solution, which again, they have been saying for months now. Meanwhile, families have needed this money for months to pay their kids' tuition.
Yeah, Rebecca, I want to remind our viewers that last month you reported those with urgent cases could fill out support forms for immediate assistance. Any update right now on how that temporary solution is working?
So that's kind of more of the same here, Kai. I've been in touch with dozens of families today. All of them say that they have received no assistance so far. This is actually the only response that they're getting right now. It's a confirmation email saying that their forms were properly submitted and Maryland 529 will be in touch. Again, that was about a month ago. The agency also allocated $1 million in funding for this process. But again, families still aren't receiving answers. And when I asked them directly, I asked Maryland 529, has anyone received any assistance yet through this temporary fix, these forms that they rolled out a month ago? They ignored the question. Reporting live from the control room, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Well, county's under pressure. An Anne Arundel County woman is accused of exposing herself and cursing at children while handing out candy last night. Officers arrested 45-year-old Wendy Kazurik on 2nd Avenue, just off Hillside Avenue in Edgewater. She faces charges of indecent exposure and disorderly conduct. Kazurik was released from jail this morning without bail.
A federal judge has delayed the trial of a Johns Hopkins doctor and her spouse who are accused of trying to leak medical records to aid the Russian war effort in Ukraine. Dr. Anna Gabrielin and her spouse, Dr. Jamie Lee Henry, are charged with conspiracy and the disclosure of individually identifiable health information. The judge granted the government's request for more time in an order filed Monday in order to complete discovery and potentially work out a plea deal. A trial is now likely to occur early next year. Well, in 7 days, voters will head to the polls for Election Day. Fox 45 is committed to taking you beyond the podium with candidates vying for your vote. Mackenzie Frost sits down with Democrat Johnny Olszewski, who is seeking re-election as Baltimore County Executive.
County Executive Johnny L., thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
What are some of the goals that you're looking for to accomplish if elected?
We've worked really hard these past 4 years to, for example, put forward both record-shattering funding for school construction, but also to obtain a lot of money from the state to help really accomplish those aims.
We've seen a lot of video surfacing of violence happening in schools. How do you plan to address that, and what do you think is the root cause?
We're providing the supports, again, both the upstream and the safety interventions that we can from a county perspective, but that the school system is, holding children and families accountable for violent behavior.
What more could they be doing, the school board?
Well, look, as a teacher, the thing I can tell you is that children that were persistently violent or disruptive not only affected their own ability to learn, and those children are entitled to a chance to learn, but in doing so, they were also disrupting the opportunity for other children in the schoolhouse to have an education.
Especially in the county, there's been a lot of conversation about some frustration within the police department. And I know you went and talked to some folks in the police department. What are you hearing from members, rank and file members, about what's going on?
Well, I'll start by saying, anyone who's affected by crime we care about, and one person who's impacted is one too many. Mm-hmm. There are, I think, both some short-term and long-term things that we can be addressing. Not just salary and pay, but also issues of equipment and our police precincts, bringing those up to speed.
The buildings themselves?
The buildings themselves. There are issues of carryover leave.
Your opponent talks about how, if elected, he would get rid of the chief, Melissa Hyatt. Mm-hmm. That would be one of his first actions. Do you think that's a good idea, and do you still have faith in her abilities? The
first thing I'd say is it's presumptuous for me or anyone running to make pronouncements. If I'm fortunate enough to have the opportunity to keep serving, every agency, every department head will go through a thorough review, and it will not only review what they've done to date, but also whether or not they're the right leader to move that agency into the future.
You're still the county executive right now, though. Do you have faith in her at this moment?
Like I said, we are continuing every day to work hand in glove to make sure that we are doing whatever we can to support the men and women of the department, to keep our neighborhood safe. and to make sure that we're moving forward on some key critical initiatives. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing together.
Would you tell them right now that everyone should be expecting to have their job performance looked at and evaluated, and perhaps changes would be made?
Yeah, I mean, our agency heads know that just like I have to stand for evaluation before the voters, they too will be being evaluated in terms of whether or not they're the right leader to move the county ahead.
Election day's coming up. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Well, Fox 45 spoke with the Republican challenger Pat McDonough earlier this week. To hear his interview and all of our reporting on the upcoming general election, go to our website, the Fox 45 Voter Guide. You can scan the QR code right there. That will take you to foxbaltimore.com/vote2022. Hearing from candidates for Baltimore County School Board what they believe needs to change to improve student performance and reduce violence.
And a great looking afternoon with sunshine, a couple of patchy clouds, and temperatures comfortable in the 70s. I'm going to let you know how long we're going to hold on to this November warmth. It's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Project Baltimore is sponsored by the Snyder Law Group. Call 410-THE-FIRM.
Election day is next week, and voters have many important decisions to make, including who will lead their local school systems. In Baltimore County, 7 new school board members will be elected. Project Baltimore's Chris Papp spoke with the candidates about some of the most pressing issues the school system is facing, including student performance, curriculum, and transparency.
The Baltimore County Board of School Commissioners has 12 members. On November 8th, voters will elect 7. The others are appointed. 3 of the candidates are running unopposed. Project Baltimore reached out to the other 8 who are fighting for your votes. 5 agreed to an interview. These 5 candidates running for Baltimore County School Board all agree BCPS needs to do a better job educating students.
We have to improve student performance across the board.
And we have to reward teachers that are thriving.
Project Baltimore analyzed state test scores from 2019, the year before COVID. The number of Baltimore County students proficient in English in every grade level was down compared to 2015. The number of 3rd graders proficient in English was down from 42% to 37%. 10th grade English proficiency was down from 39% to 33%.
Not everybody learns the same way.
Our job needs to be to prepare all students to succeed.
I think diversity is key.
Dr. Brenda Savoy and Samay Singh Kindra are both running in the 4th District. Savoy spent 36 years in education as a teacher and administrator. Kendra is a law student and graduate of Baltimore County Schools. To improve student performance, both agree the curriculum needs to be racially diversified. They both embrace what's known as critical race theory, the concept that racism is a social construct embedded in our laws.
I think that the curriculum should be inclusive of all children. If they can see themselves in the curriculum, they might do better.
So it's on us to make sure that the curriculum and the policies we're putting forth are including all students, are making all students feel included in their education, and exciting them about the opportunity to learn.
Corey Coons, a small business owner, and Robin Harvey, a social worker, are running against each other in District 1. Coons says the first priority is to control the fighting and violence that's disrupting classrooms.
Kids are not going to buy into learning if they're afraid or they don't care.
Harvey says BCPS needs to focus more on having highly qualified teachers, especially in core subjects.
It's difficult to improve student performance when you have long-term subs, when you have people who are teaching classes that they aren't really trained in to teach.
The fifth candidate we spoke with was Maggie Dominowski, a businesswoman and mother of 3 Baltimore County students. She's running in District 3. Her opponent did not agree to an interview. Dominowski says we need to trust our teachers to teach our kids instead of paying outside consultants to micromanage curriculum.
If we could come together with our teachers, bring them in, ask them what they find that's working in their classrooms and implement that all over and see how that works.
We also asked candidates about transparency.
I will make myself available.
This was Superintendent Dr. Darrell Williams on July 1st, 2019. His first day on the job.
I'll make sure our cabinet members, if I'm not, that we have a spokesperson on behalf of the superintendent.
Despite those words, that interview remains the only interview Dr. Williams has ever granted Project Baltimore, even though since 2019, our reporting has uncovered serious concerns in his district. A sex offender attending Parkville High School, school buses passing inspection with broken parts, financial documents shredded during a financial audit. Yet through all of it, Dr. Williams has refused to interview with Project Baltimore.
Do you believe in transparency?
Absolutely.
I do, yes.
If you are elected to the school board, will you make yourself available to the media?
I will make myself available to the public.
If it is something I'm familiar with, yes.
Absolutely.
There should be no secrets. It should be transparent, clear as glass. You can see everything.
So the board has to be communicating and collaborating with all stakeholders.
I'm a parent, and education should be a straightforward and simple thing.
I am a public servant.
I wanted to see our kids put first, and I wanted to see our parents' concerns and questions answered.
We also asked the candidates about school violence and if Superintendent Dr. Darrell Williams' contract should be renewed when it comes due in June. That story first aired last week. You can find their answers on our website, foxbaltimore.com. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Wow, what a gorgeous day. I wish we could have had this for trick-or-treating yesterday, but you know, we got through it. We got our candy, and I'm still eating it. 73 degrees, Mile 1 Towson, mostly cloudy skies, winds out of the northwest at 11. Gorgeous fall color in the background. We have had a couple of sprinkles here and there, but overall, really a gorgeous day. Humidity 48%. And, I mean, temperatures, you can't ask for more this time of year. It's November 1st. We got low to mid-70s, 75 this afternoon. We've got a few days of this coming. Temperatures all running about 10, 15 degrees above average for most of our neighborhoods. And the weather pattern through Thursday doesn't change much. In fact, there could be a little dip of some somewhat cooler air coming for, say, Wednesday and Thursday. It'll probably be highs at about 65, 70, which is still above average, but all the chill going to be boxed up in the western U.S. where we've got system after system coming, even some snow out west. Not going to be the case around here. Nice and above average, and it looks like it gets even warmer as we head into the weekend. Some showers around Scranton, Pennsylvania, as well as into Boston, Massachusetts, and then there's a big batch of rain that's off the coast up towards the Canadian Maritimes, and that is the last of our latest weather maker. You can see that little kind of yellow line. That's a disturbance moving away. What's taking its place? fair weather, high pressure with the clear skies and those nice temperatures next several days. Now in the tropics, yep, still hurricane season, and we've got nearly a hurricane, in fact, over the central portion of the Caribbean. But as is typical this time of year, these things start staying a little farther south in November, and that's what's happening as we see one, Lisa, that's way down there, maybe moving toward Belize, or if they do get farther north, they kind of turn extratropical real fast. And you see here Martin, which is a tropical storm, that will likely change into an extratropical system as it becomes hurricane strength over the northern shipping lanes of the Atlantic next several days as well. So the forecast overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, settling down into the 40s to near 50. Another winter tomorrow, maybe a few degrees less warm than today, but I'll still say pretty mild as highs make it to near 70. Becomes clear for tonight, dry, refreshing, gorgeous. 49, 71, mostly sunny skies for tomorrow. Next 7 days, count it out. 1, 2, 3 days of dry skies and sunshine. Highs near 70, mid to upper 70s Saturday, Sunday. Just a stray spot shower. Of course, we gain an hour of sleep, but lose an hour on our sunset on Sunday. And then it stays above average into early next week.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. New tonight at 6 o'clock, a nationwide staffing shortage could affect your pets. How your next visit to the vet could look much different. Golden sunset in our nation's capital. Beautiful, right? Hey, this weekend, looking ahead, the Baltimore station is holding its 8th annual chili cook-off. It's happening at Camden Yards this Saturday. Now, this morning, Be More Lifestyle host Mark Clark had the chance to speak with last year's champion about what it takes to win the crown of chili cook-off.
There's actually 3 secret ingredients this year. I can't disclose them all, but I will say that we are using a little bit of habanero honey this year.
Wow, a little bit of habanero. I know your competition is at home right now writing these notes down. Is there anything else you're going to give them?
Probably not. Well, I will say that as soon as the weather starts to turn, I am ordering spices from Mild Bill's. I'm kind of tweaking them. I call it my chili test kitchen.
Now, if you want to try that chili you just saw and so many more recipes this weekend, head to our website, foxbaltimore.com, for more information on how to buy tickets. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock, Baltimore residents await an update from the Squeegee Collaborative. And Fox 45 News presses Mayor Brandon Scott as he prepares to release the findings. And some hardware is coming back to Camden Yards. Find out which Oriole is taking home a Golden Glove Award. A key finding in the Adnan Syed case comes to light, why Baltimore's top prosecutor is calling it revisionist history. A new IG report finds more mistakes from DPW, how Baltimore narrowly avoided a second water crisis this year. And President Biden gets tough on oil companies ahead of the midterms, why experts say he's not necessarily going after the right group.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. Mayor Brandon Scott is expected to release a long-awaited recommendation from the Squeegee Collaborative this week. As Baltimore waits, more people are coming forward with their troubling encounters. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost questioned the mayor today.
The issue here is that Mayor Brandon Scott and Ivan Bass, the presumptive next top prosecutor in Baltimore City, appear to be on different pages when it comes to enforcing current laws on the books banning squeegee kids from being on the corner. The attorney says the laws can be enforced, but the politician, he says otherwise. And while this is all happening, the problems continue. The intersection of Fayette and President, right off Interstate 83.
Every time I suggest going downtown, she's like, I'd rather not.
Squeegee kids usually greet drivers, and that's what happened last weekend when a physician and his wife came to Baltimore from the county for dinner. He wants to shield his name and face, but he wants his story shared.
I gave him the $2. He must have seen, I didn't have a lot of cash, but I did have some cash in my billfold, and he saw it, and he says to me, hey, OJ, give me another 20. I said to him, no.
$300 later,
I never thought that he would grab my wallet and run like a little punk.
He says the incident happened in the shadow of Baltimore Police headquarters and just feet from an officer.
He goes, we'll call you. But the funny thing was, he never asked for my phone number. So when he took my information off my license, there is no phone number in your license, and nobody's bothered to call me. it's a joke. What's the point of having a police officer there?
The doctor's disaster comes as more and more incidents are reported. Since July, there have been nearly 600 squeegee-related calls for service at intersections around the city. And BPD utilizing hundreds of hours of overtime to have officers sit at the corners, only typically watching, not preventing crimes. The mayor's office says when the recommendations of a squeegee collaborative are made public, there will be a focus on, quote, constitutional enforcement of the city code, since the mayor says squeegeeing is panhandling and therefore protected speech. Tuesday morning, we pressed the mayor on that notion.
So we had another driver come forward yesterday, say that he was
we're on it. We're investigating to make sure what happened, to make sure our police department did what they were supposed to do. When we get the details on that, I will definitely get back to you.
But your office also says that when we see the recommendations, it'll focus on the constitutionality of enforcement around these laws. Ivan Bates says that he disagrees with your law enforcement.
No, he doesn't. I spoke with Ivan Bates directly. What you say, Mackenzie, again, Ivan Bates and I have residents of Baltimore. Do not listen to Fox 45. There is no difference between Ivan Bates and I and how we're going to approach the squeegee. Thank you. Anybody else?
Where's the disconnect?
Let's go back to when Ivan Bates, the city's presumptive next state's attorney, told me just last month.
Does that mean you disagree with the mayor's law department's interpretation of the law, that what they're doing is protected free speech because they say that that's panhandling?
I understand, however, on the law, I disagree. To me, there's a difference of panhandling, holding a sign very quietly in an area, not going in and out of traffic.
Right.
Going in and out of traffic is an action. Therefore, I believe that action is illegal.
In addition to the city code prohibiting solicitation of drivers in the street, there's another section, 25, banning loitering in the streets. And we sent that section to the mayor's office asking why it's also not being enforced. Getting a response, again doubling down on the constitutional concerns. Mayor Scott's spokesperson writing, quote, any statute that is enforced unevenly could be subject to constitutional challenge. Meanwhile, attorney Ivan Bates says the laws can be enforced.
I've done the legal research from my standpoint, and I feel good about where we are.
And Mayor Scott remains committed to his comments about how big the problem is.
No mayor has solved this issue that's been around.
Putting the city's next steps on the Squeegee Collaborative, who has met in public one time.
This should be a top priority for, the mayor and the city council to sort of clean this up.
And was launched after Timothy Reynolds was gunned down in a Baltimore intersection.
What are they waiting for? Another killing?
The mayor's office says whatever the recommendations end up being from the Squeegee Collaborative, it'll take some time before the city sees a change. In Baltimore, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And new tonight, Fox 45 News has obtained a copy of the note written by former prosecutor Kevin Urich about the Adnan Syed case. Syed's defense team says the letter proves there were other suspects and paved the way for the charges to be dropped. But in a transcript of the note, Urich refers to Syed allegedly telling Hae Min Lee he would make her disappear. We blocked out the names of others who have not been identified as suspects or persons of interest. Former prosecutor Kurt Nachman says there are some glaring questions about how this case was investigated.
To me, the most shocking thing is that no one ever bothered to call the original prosecutor on the case and ask him what his notes meant.
City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby quickly refuted those claims, saying it makes no sense to believe those threats should be attributed to Adnan Syed. She went on to call Urich's letter revisionist history and saying it is convenient for prosecutors. Election day is a week out, and this year voters will have the chance to decide whether to bring Baltimore police back under local control. The city controls the department's budget, and the mayor has the power to hire and fire the police commissioner. But the city is limited when it comes to policy changes. Advocates say the move can help rebuild trust between police and residents.
As we go through police accountability and we talk about trust, this is one of the avenues that can help with the trust within our neighborhoods.
If this passes, I think it will, he'll get what he wants. But it will make Baltimore police and the mayor's office more accountable for things.
Opponents of the measure say the people will see little to no change in terms of reducing crime if it's passed.
Now, a Fox 45 News alert in 3, 2, 1.
It is arguably Baltimore's biggest high school rivalry, and the game ends with both teams out of this year's playoff, amazingly. In a letter to parents, city leaders say a fight broke out between City High and Poly players, students and community members after Friday night's game. Baltimore Schools Athletic Director Tiffany Bird says poor sportsmanship will not be tolerated. This follows a similar issue between two other city schools, Edmondson and Patterson. Now, those two teams were suspended for one game each earlier this year. City leaders also say this is not the first time fights have broken out between City and Poly. Fox 45's Keith Daniels is looking into the fight and fallout. He'll have more coming up tonight.
A new Inspector General report outlines how Baltimore narrowly avoided a second water crisis this year, one that the DPW said could have been as big as Flint, Michigan. The report found the Department of Finance neglected to pay for a chemical vital for the water purification process. The chemicals vendor told the city it would pause delivery in June, citing a price dispute. But a new contract was never submitted by the city for renewal, so they were never paid the new price. Baltimore Inspector General Isabel Cumming joined Fox 45 News at 5 to take us through the confusion.
We had a vendor who actually submitted that he was going to renew his contract, as well as that his price was going up. So in the end, because that particular email was never read, the city ended up withholding payments for almost $70,000, and the vendor, rightfully so because he wasn't getting paid, started withholding the chemical.
DPW ultimately paid the vendor. The Department of Finance says it is making changes and reviewing the process for vendor contracts. Well, more questions tonight from Maryland families whose college savings accounts remain frozen. Maryland 529 gave an update this week, but as Rebecca Pryor reports, it did little to ease concerns.
Yeah, not only were families' concerns not put at ease, but the ones that I spoke with say their anxiety has only worsened. They keep being told time and time again that answers are just around the corner. But now, yet another deadline has come and gone, and still no clear solutions in sight.
It's very stressful. I'm just plain angry.
William McMullen and Lori Delaney, just two of 30,000 families waiting on money they needed months ago.
I have absolutely no faith that the money's even still there at this point.
I have been trying to roll this money over since March and to pay for, two of his semesters of college, which is a lot of money.
Between the two, they currently have over $150,000 worth of interest locked up in Maryland 529 college funds. Their accounts among those frozen after the state agency announced a calculation error occurred during the fall of last year. Since then, Maryland 529 promised to have the problem resolved by June, then pushed their timeline back to September.
They tell you, oh, we're going to do things manually. We're really close. No.
The latest deadline was extended to Monday. Account holders receiving this email saying the agency has, quote, made much progress in the last few weeks and believe we are nearing a solution. It goes on to say, quote, we do not, however, want to sacrifice accuracy for a quick fix.
These people just keep changing the rules of the game.
Every time they say something, it's like, oh, another week, another month, another week, another month.
The continued lack of answers comes on the heels of a temporary fix that was rolled out last month. Account holders were asked to fill out this support form for urgent assistance. Today, we asked how many accounts have received that assistance, but Maryland 529 not giving a straight answer and refusing an interview. Meanwhile, despite filing weeks ago, the only assistance McMullen and Delaney have received are these confirmation emails.
I got a response back that we've received it. We'll be in touch with you. No response.
It shouldn't be rocket science to calculate interest.
And even though Maryland 529's deadlines keep moving, college tuition is still due. Delaney says the error has cost her thousands in loans she never should have been forced to take out in the first place.
Each month is a struggle to make the payments in the payment plan because I should have had the money up front to do it.
When am I going to get my money?
Now, I pressed Maryland 529 for a new deadline today. They did not answer me. Instead, they just continued to say what they said in yesterday's update, that they are, quote, nearing a solution. Reporting from the control room, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Well, just in, the Orioles' Ramon Urias has won the Golden Glove for the American League third baseman. He is the first Oriole to win a Golden Glove since Manny Machado in 2015. Machado and Brooks Robinson are the only other Orioles to win the award at third base. Congrats to Ramon and the rest of the Golden Glove winners. Well, Paul Pelosi's accused attacker makes his first appearance in court. Why prosecutors say he was trying to send a message with the attack.
And temperatures running about 5 to 15 degrees above where they were same time yesterday. I'm going to let you know how much warmer it could get as we head towards the weekend in my Weather Authority forecast.
Now, a Fox 45 News Alert in 3, 2, 1.
Well, this news tonight, the man accused of attacking House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul, has entered a not guilty plea. San Francisco judge has ordered the suspect, David DePape, to be held without bail following his first public appearance since the attack. Prosecutors say his actual target was House Speaker Pelosi and that he wanted to break her kneecaps as a warning to other Democratic lawmakers. Now, DePape faces 10 charges, including assault and attempted murder. A bail hearing has been set for this Friday. Now, according to reports, DePape is 42 and he's a Canadian citizen whose visa has expired.
Guy, thank you. Well, Maryland's gas prices are back on the rise, up to $3.73 a gallon. That is a 28-cent jump from last month, part of a growing nationwide trend. Now, President Biden is going after oil and gas companies in an effort to slash prices. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins explains.
President Biden lashing out against oil companies.
Enough is enough.
Pointing to recent profits.
The outrageous profits they're making today.
Threatening a one-time windfall tax if they don't step up production to ease prices. Larry Summers, a top economic advisor to Presidents Clinton and Obama, warns such a tax could backfire, tweeting, quote, "If you reduce profitability, You will discourage investment, which is the opposite of our objective. With the clock ticking down to the midterms, high gas prices are not what Democrats want to see.
This president is laser focused. We're all incredibly laser focused on the tools we have to try to keep downward pressure on price.
Since Biden stepped into power, gas prices have risen nationally, peaking at more than $5 per gallon this summer. As of Tuesday, prices still well over $1 higher than Inauguration Day. The Biden administration accusing the energy giants of using the war in Ukraine for their own gain.
It's time for these companies to stop war profiteering.
But Frank Macchiarola from the American Petroleum Institute says Biden's White House had it wrong from the start.
They've talked about the need for more supply, but they've shut down access to federal lands and waters. They've talked about the need for permitting reform and more infrastructure, but they've canceled pipeline projects. They've talked about reducing costs, but they've proposed and passed tax increases on U.S. producers.
Even meeting with the Saudis didn't help. OPEC doing the exact opposite of what Biden wanted, sharply cutting oil production, with the Saudis now warning the coming months will be painful for the U.S.
To make matters worse, the U.S. is facing a diesel fuel shortage, possibly affecting an already fragile supply chain and driving inflation even higher. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
All right, Fox Triplecast looking good this evening. Look at that sunshine on the Toyota Asian Harbor Skycam over beautiful Orioles Park, and then down in Towson, we got the sunshine there in our Mile 1 Towson cam. And the HD radar showing not a whole lot as our latest weather maker continues to push its way off the coast. Really, our next weather maker is fair weather high pressure, the stuff we're seeing right now. So we like it. 75 degrees on that Toyota Asian Harbor Skycam. Sunshine reported over a BWI. Winds out of the west-northwest at about 8. Our humidity 57%. Not a bad day by any stretch. Temperatures right close to 70 degrees area-wide, running anywhere between about 8 to 15 degrees warmer than just 24 hours ago. Now today, again, a little bit warmer. The real warmth is up in the upper Midwest around Minneapolis. That's going to stay there at least for now, but we're still going to be above average through tomorrow as well as into Wednesday as we work our way into Thursday and then probably Friday as well. But then really warm stuff, that stuff that's west of Chicago, that's going to start moving back toward us. And we could be in the mid to upper 70s for some of us over the weekend. That's what some of our computer models are saying. So it's nice stuff. We've got, again, some rain that's off the coast, but that's the stuff that came toward us yesterday and overnight, and that continues to move out of here. We did have a couple of sprinkles here and there this afternoon, a little instability, if you will, going off toward north following this latest disturbance, this latest weather maker coming through. But that's now gone. Clear skies rolling in, and it looks like fair weather high pressure again is going to give us some really nice days next several. Now down in the tropics over the central and western Caribbean, there is Lisa, tropical storm, could become a Category 1 hurricane as it makes its way toward Belize. We've actually got some hurricane warnings posted for those folks through the midweek. And then there's Martin, but this one's just going to be affecting the shipping lanes, perhaps as a hurricane, but affected the shipping lanes over the northern Atlantic before becoming extratropical. Overnight tonight, temperatures falling through the 50s back into the 40s to around 50 by early tomorrow morning. So kids will need a jacket, but by tomorrow afternoon, you shed that jacket once again as sunshine works us close to 70. 49 tonight becomes clear, gorgeous, dry, refreshing. 71 for tomorrow. Take the dog for a walk in the park, mostly sunny skies, real nice. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, I've got your exclusive 10-day forecast taking you all the way through the weekend and into next week.
Staffing concerns are wearing on hospitals nationwide, and it's not just for people. In tonight's Assignment America, Lee Stoll from our Sinclair sister station in Seattle takes us through a budding veterinarian shortage.
There are recruiters that are just leaving the field. There are veterinarians that are leaving the field. There are vice presidents of larger companies. It's just, I think it's everywhere.
Nationwide, clinics are facing a staffing crisis.
Nice to see you.
A recent report from Mars Veterinary Health says we'll need 41,000 more veterinarians in the U.S. by 2030. But graduation and hiring rates aren't anywhere close to meeting that goal. We called 5 local clinics.
Are you taking any new clients right now?
3 told us they're not taking new patients.
So for the last few years, we have not accepted new clients, and just simply because it's just been difficult to do that. But we have just started accepting new clients.
Adoption rates skyrocketed during the pandemic.
It's been a big impact for us and for the adopters.
Three Little Pitties in Texas pulls hundreds of dogs and cats out of kill shelters in Houston every year. Nearly all of them end up on trucks bound for the Pacific Northwest.
Monthly, we're bringing up, an average of 150 dogs. This year alone, we are almost at 1,600 animals.
They're now warning potential pet parents to find a veterinarian before adopting, especially for puppies that need to be vaccinated.
I have 3 pets of my own. I have 3 dogs and 2 cats of my own, and I'm scheduling out my dog's appointments.
If you see something going on with your pet, call us and try to get them in right away, because chances are you may have to wait a day or 2 or even a little bit longer to get them seen.
Ling says clients are taking their frustration out on the staff, contributing to burnout and turnover. Some have been told not to come back.
It's a lot of verbal abuse. There have been situations where I've seen and heard myself threats, people saying, hey, we're going to come back and, do whatever.
Ling says clinics are working together, building spreadsheets and sending clients to clinics that have available appointments. He says one fix is for everyone to practice patience.
The exclusive 10-day forecast, 71 degrees, nice day coming for Wednesday. A couple degrees cooler than today, 67 on Thursday. We're at 71 Friday. Look at those mid to upper 70s. Could even threaten records over the weekend there, Saturday and Sunday. Clocks, of course, go back. We fall back 1 hour. Late Saturday night into Sunday morning with those highs 75 to 80. There could be a slim chance of a shower Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's not a big chance. Then 65 for next Tuesday. Turns unsettled next Wednesday. Before next Thursday and Friday, it's back to sunshine and highs close to where we should be, right around 60 degrees.
Jonathan, thank you. Well, finally tonight, a state-of-the-art rec center is coming to Cherry Hill soon. The Middle Branch Fitness and Wellness Center is entirely city-owned. The 35,000-square-foot center has 3 pools, a basketball court, indoor walking tracks, and can hold up to 1,500 people. The rec center will officially open on November 9th. That's 1 week from tomorrow. And a programming reminder, World Series Game 3 is tonight on Fox 45. After last night's rainout, the Astros and the Phillies both looking to take a 2-1 lead in the series. Pregame starts at 7. First pitch is just after 8 o'clock right here on Fox 45. That's all for Fox 45 News at 6. Family Feud is next. Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune will air after our newscast that follows the game. It'll be a late one. Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.